Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Daryl Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Our guest today, it's funny. We have a mutual friend here, and we've talked about that for the last, 10, 12 minutes. But it's funny to get dirt on a guy who was a high school quarterback of a state regional team, and he's 5'5". But that's a whole nother story that he and I can't talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Pulizzi. Tony, how you doing?
Hey, man. Man, thank you so much for having me on the show and the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Long live. Congratulations to everything that you're doing, man.
Thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate it. You're, as I call him, you're a guitarist or a guitarist. When did this start? When did you? Because I think I don't think we're the same age. We might be in the same generation. But first of all, why the guitar? And then who were your, I don't want to say mentors, but who were you following when you first picked up the guitar?
Well, I started playing when I was 9, and I listened to a lot of different kinds of music. My mom played piano in the house. Actually, I started on piano first, and then I slowly went to the guitar because I think I came out of my piano lesson and I saw the album cover poster, Frampton Comes Alive, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's it. That's
Okay.
it. And then I picked up the guitar and I listened to what was on the radio, and I had good teachers. Taught me how to read. I had my rock bands in school, but I slowly got into jazz. I had a teacher, and he's a retired airline pilot out of United Airlines. He lives down in Houston now, but he taught up in the Cleveland area, and he just gave me a stack full of like jazz albums. Here, take it. Wes Montgomery, George Benson, Phil Upchurch, everything, Kirk, Larry Carlton. And I was like, and I just ate it all up. So I started learning jazz. And I also went to Bowling Green State University. I got a degree in jazz performance. And right there, I was kind of like a rock guy, even though I wanted to learn about jazz. But in that time, in the late 80s, early 90s, in the tri-state area, many people that were taught out of North Texas or MI, Berkeley. Those were the only places that were starting jazz programs or had jazz programs. So all these people were graduating, and they were trying to start jazz education programs for in other areas. So one sprouted up in Bowling Green State University. You could get a jazz degree there, and I was inundated with many. The person that came up there was Chris Bazzelli. He was the guitar chair there, and he was teaching jazz and classical. But I was immersed with different kinds of players. I had a guy who was a friend of mine. He was a great country player. Another guy, he came from Oklahoma. He was a hard bop player. Another cat, he was a classical player. And I was kind of the rock guy. And we all needed each other, but we all fed off of each other because we learned all the different styles. And that made it nice. That really made it nice.
How do you, if you're following a lot of people, Benson, Christian, Wes Montgomery, whoever, how do you take all of that information in and then formulate your own style?
I think it's years of playing with different people. I think it's transcribing their solos. You got to get to know what they were thinking, or just I think it's good to know people what they're going through personally. I think it's just all those things. Getting to know some of these players that you've played with on a personal, if you're playing with them, I mean, is just a lot of stuff right there. But I mean, there's so many different ways to learn. I mean, I'm kind of like, you can say that I'm a collegiate player, but it's not just that. You have to hang, you have to get out, you have to participate. You just can't be in your room trying to learn this music. It's not. This is a spontaneous music. This is, you have to interact. You have to interact. You have to do that. That's my opinion on that.
So I've looked up, I've done my research on you, and you spent time with, what is it, American Idol, BET Award Show, Dancing with the Stars, The Voice. That is a situation where my wife won't let me watch it because I'm too much of a critic. Um, but every song that they do is different. How much time do you all as a band have to rehearse or perfect that song that they're going to perform? Because I can't imagine me walking out on stage. I obviously would do spoken word because bruh man can't sing, unless I'm being Melvin Franklin of the Temptations. Um, but it come out there and it's like, okay, we do this song. Are you not to give away secrets? Okay, yeah, we're gonna give away secrets. Do you know the song ahead of time? And if you do, still, how much time do you have to rehearse that song so that it comes out quality?
Well, when I was on the show, the music director was Ray Chu. Do you know Ray?
I
Yeah, he
Ray and I have the same birthday,
unbelievable cat. I love Ray. And he
right?
came, as you know, he came from his band Ray Chu and the Crew, and they were doing Showtime with Apollo.
Right?
When he came out to LA to do the show, I ended up being the house guitarist. And what happened was, in their procedure, they would the contestants would pick a song, and then, in a long story short, there would be an arrangement made of that song, and then the next day it was recorded. So if it was going to be a country thing or a bossa or things like that, we got to go in there, we have to record this arrangement, we get that, and then we would perform it live on the show. But they would need something for them to rehearse with, and
Hmm.
then we would meld in if there was some other interaction with the track or anything like that. But they would know that, but that would be a whole week's time. And then the day before, there would be a dress rehearsal, and if they needed me to come out to play with the artist, they would be planning that. And and then the next day would be the performance. And then if there's 10 weeks of that, you're dwindling down, the whole process would start over again.
Jeez. I just
Yeah.
that's another thing, and we talked about this before. It's just a way of you got to learn to manage your time because it's not like, and could you, if that process takes 10 weeks, can you do anything else in that 10-week
No,
period?
no, this particular thing, if you're on Dancing with the Stars or American Idol, it consumes you. It is. You eat, breathe, sleep that TV show until it's done. And it's like, and then when it's done, it just stops.
Right.
And then it's like, it's a big commitment. But I'm thankful to have those live TV show experiences. I came out to LA because there was things I just didn't know, and boy, did I find out. Holy crap.
What
It's a
didn't you
lot
know?
of work. Oh,
What didn't you know?
I didn't know how live TV worked, or like a show like this, to be immersed, to go on to a TV set like that. It was just all new experiences. I just wanted to grow in that area, and just, work with these people. It was great. It was a great opportunity.
Did you kind of, what was your intent when you moved to LA?
I moved to LA. Um, what happened was, I was in Berea and I had my studio. That's where I live, living out of Berea, Ohio. And what happened was, I was going out to the NAMM shows periodically, year after year, I knew I needed to build more connections. And what happened was, is during the crash of 2008, that period of time, the landlord wanted this. I was renting a house, and it was me, my wife, and my son, who was 4 years old. And I wanted to, no, the landlord wanted to sell the house, and we just did not decide to buy the house. They wanted to sell it for an exorbitant amount of money. No, we do not want to buy the house. They said, well, you don't want to buy it, you have to be out in 60 days.
Jeez.
So that's what happened. And at that time, I was teaching at Tri-C. I was the guitar professor there. I had a church job at Mount Zion, Oakwood Village. I was playing there for 8 years. So I mean, I had I was in Cleveland. That's
right.
me. I was growing. I was teaching at the Tri-C. I was just a person in Cleveland. But at the same time, I wanted to know more. And what happened was, you know what? Instead, we don't move into another house in Cleveland. Let's just move it on out.
Right.
And at that time, I was getting calls from people that were coming into LA that wanted to work with me as well. And that means they weren't going to save me if I went out to LA. You all think you're going to do that. If you go out there, man, you have to put forth to the commitment. So, there would be people I could play with, but you don't know if it's going to happen out there. But what happened was my wife and I made that choice, and we moved out in August of 2009. And now it's 15 years later.
Wow.
My son is 20 years old. He's in college right now, going to school. And it worked out, but at the same time, long story short, it is a commitment. If you move out here, you have to grind it. You have to do the work. And I do want to thank the city of Cleveland for giving me the fortitude and the courage and the character to survive what I had done, because I can't thank them enough, because we have a great music scene in Cleveland, and I will never forget that. And it's like this is just what I wanted to do. I wanted to find out more things about the industry. And I'm still here, and I'm glad people are still wanting to work with me and play, and just everybody out. It's just been great. It's been awesome.
So in that answer, I always go, I sometimes have a list of questions, and other time I just listen and it creates questions. I met Ray Chu as he was the musical director for Ashford and Simpson.
Yes.
Got to go backstage, and that's how I found out that he and I share the same birthday. And then what's the church in Oakwood Village?
Mount Zion of Oakwood Village.
5 minutes away from that house, that church right now. I'm in Macedonia.
No!
I probably shouldn't have said that, but yes, that's where I am. It is.
No, Pastor Macon. He's been very good to me over the years, and I worked there with Eric Wright. He is not with us anymore, but I played under him, and also Niles McKinney, who we just lost recently. And Eddie Backus Jr. was over there. He was one that brought me over there, and then I played. And I played there for 8 years.
It is
great people, great congregation.
You think that the world is a very big place. And then all of a sudden you begin to have conversations with people, and you find out things that connect you. And it's always funny to me as I talk to more and more artists, there's more and more Cleveland, and I knew you when, or we had a conversation whenever. I remember being on the air one time. I got the door closed to the studio, and the door gets literally thrown open, and it's Roy Ayers. And I'm like, what are you doing here? I came over to talk to you. Shuts the door, and we go on for an interview. Herbie Hancock was the same way. Herbie Hancock at least knocked. But you have these conversations, and you just don't know where they're going to go. I'm going to tell you where we're going to go right now. We're going to go and listen to a song that you are featured in. As a matter of fact, I think this might be your latest release. You'll have to tell me. It's called Something I Should Say?
Something I Should Share.
Something I Should Share. Let's take a listen to this on the Jazz Flyte Podcast with our guest.
Thank you.
Tony Pulizzi.
This is a way that I could give my life to you. This is a time you could take me away. Oh, my, secrets are mine now, for they can stand the test. For I can't find myself to change.
What was it like the first experience, let's say the first 6 months of getting to LA? What were you going through, especially since you got a family? I'm guessing you've got a teenage son at this point. This has got to be a shape-shifting kind of life experience.
Oh, well, what happened was when we drove across the country in 2009, AJ was still 4. So
Okay.
he was still 4. We got to LA, and so funny. There was a fire going on when we drove in. And what happened was my wife, she's very resourceful. We got a good deal out of this one hotel. No, it was a Marriott. We got it for like $50 a night.
Wow.
So we were able to just, we bought it for like 3 weeks. And it's like, okay, we're going to get there. We're going to make our child comfortable. There was things that we needed to do. We needed to maintain stability. But what was it? I went out there at the same time. I was trying to meet people while we were trying to find a place.
Mm-hmm.
So it did take us 3 weeks to find a place, but if you have a will, there's a way. I mean,
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's
Right.
like it's like, and there was one time where I think we were going to try to get out, but we ended up getting a nice place, right off the 101. People needed to know who I was. No one's going to come call me. No
Right.
one's. I mean, even the few people that I knew or the people that I know, I had to make that happen. So I just, for every night I went out aggressively. I went to the clubs. I knew where cats were hanging. I had to introduce myself. I had to keep the energy out there. Okay. And that is something that needs to be done all the time. Even as older as we get, we have to keep the energy out there. And I started getting, gigs that, I was subbing for people at churches, or someone called me for a jazz gig, or I ended up playing bass on this gig or whatever. But, I ended up getting a list of people that I was making inroads with. And, some of these people that were calling me in, and I would be on the most whack gig, but you would not believe the people that you meet on these gigs. Oh
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
man, I play for Sly. I'm like, you play for Sly Stone? I mean, it's like these things that I wasn't normally used to being in Cleveland. I mean, we have our stars in Cleveland, but
Right. Yes.
everybody's living here, but everybody has they're people, they're just like me and you. This town is full of the industry. That's what
And
it is.
and I think that's the thing, is that as opposed to having a fly in, get a hotel,
Yeah.
book a gig, I'm just going to go down the street and sit in on this show because I can. There's no, I don't setup. There's no process. It just happens, and I think that's the biggest difference between, I'll say, between Cleveland and LA.
I do want to say there are more since COVID, we've had an exodus of people moving out of LA. They're moving to Nashville, Las Vegas, Austin. So, we do have our music center here, but I think things are changing now. I mean, things are changing now more than I've seen in the last, 10 years here, and I think that's a lot due to COVID,
Yeah.
but
Now,
I still think we'll have stuff here though. It's cool.
now you also have lived through the latest fires that they had out in LA. Can you talk about what you learned, dealt with, or what you can share about that whole experience? Because I don't know how you all do it. Don't get me wrong. I don't know why you all stay.
It was a very tense 2 weeks as we saw things happen that were beyond our control. We got very angry inside. I knew there was something that everybody was all going through in the LA County. I had, I was very, I had my bags packed. I
Mhm.
did. Even if I was lucky that maybe if I would have time, there was people I had no time,
Right.
no time. And I'm very fortunate that I'm still here. I've learned to know what's really important
Hmm.
in life. I mean, yeah, I had some guitars and I had my manuscripts and my hard drives, but that was about it. But I had my studio here. So it's like, if I have to start over again, I will have to start over. I mean, we're going to still be here. If we didn't die, then praise God,
Right.
and it's like, maybe if I lost everything, well, I still have my family, everybody's still alive. We'll just start again. I know that's very, very difficult. And we have people in our industry that has happened to them, and we have to be there for them in their time of need. And we did talk about that off camera, but we have a fire benefit coming up called Jam for LA at South Coast Winery on February 23rd on Sunday. And Dave Kaz and Michael Paulo are streamlining it up, and we have over 50 artists that are going to be playing there that day, and it's going to be a special day. It's going to be something great. It's going to be cool.
Look forward to that. That would be one of those things. It would be great if we could, I don't know, have it recorded to CD or somehow stream it so that those of us who can't physically be at the place, that at least can hear the music that you guys are going to be playing. Going back to that American Idol stuff and all that Dancing with the Stars stuff, how did you get that gig?
Okay, so we want to talk about, again, we have to go back to the Conan O'Brien, Jay Leno Tonight Show debacle.
Jeez.
We have to go back to that, okay? So bear with me. So when Conan, he lost that battle for Jay to get his show back.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Leno's band was Kevin Eubanks,
right?
Tonight Show band. Well, he didn't renew whatever. He decided not to be for the next incarnation of what Jay was going to do. At that time, the American Idol band was the Ricky Minor band. You may have heard of Ricky Minor, great LA band leader.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing the American Idol show. And what happened was the Ricky Minor band just moved over to the Tonight Show band. Well, there was a vacancy in the American Idol band. So here comes Ray Chu. And so Jimmy Iovine and the people, they call Ray. I think he was on, like, he was doing some other Christmas time in NBC Christmas show. It's like when he got the call, he's like, it was like it happened very fast for him. So he's like, Ray, he got the gig. He went out there and they needed a guitar. He brought Ray Chu and the crew, the people at the Showtime at the Apollo, brought them out there. And that was the core people in that band, but they needed a guitar player. And what happened was, and I'm going to say it again, we're going to go back. Cleveland, Ohio. I had when I played in casual bands throughout the time I was in Cleveland, I knew a drummer named Sam Romano. Maybe you know him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he also has a brother named Frankie Romano, great guitar player. And throughout the 2000s, he was inundated with all the neo soul stuff happening in Philly with the Hidden Beach, with the Jill Scott, the Roots. He was playing on all that stuff. And he was on the road with Rob Thomas at the time for Matchbox 20.
Mm-hmm.
But I was out in LA, and there was some things that he might have been able to do or to do on the show, because Ray knew Frankie. And what happened was, I think he just called Tony. So then Frankie called me. He said, "Hey man, they're down at Center Stage, LA, man. Just go down there." And I'm like, "You want me to what?" I mean, by this time, I'm only been in LA for like a year and a half. And I was just doing my thing, just playing. And what happened was I went down there, and because of the footwork I did, I was just on. Before I got that call, I was doing I was playing in a lot of churches. I was just hanging out. I was, on this gig and that. So I knew the majority of a lot of the big heavy hitters in town. So when I went over to Center Stage, they weren't taping American Idol at that time. Ray was, he's in all charge of a lot of the shows.
Right.
This was a celebration of gospel. So I go in there and I knew everybody that was in the band. They're like, "Hey, Tony, what's going on?" And then Ray saw that. So that was a couple of points for me, because I did that work. We had Ethan, he plays with Lionel Richie, we got, Eric Walls, he just did the Super Bowl like last, it's like, but he plays with the Isley brothers, so it's like these cats are working cats in town, but Ray saw that I knew them and that made him comfortable, even though he did get a tip off from Frankie. Hey, try this guy. And I pulled up. Yeah, I pulled up with my car and I had, 5 guitars. I didn't know what I was going to be asked to do. I didn't know what he was going to do. But Ray got me in the room. He says, Tony, we need this. We need this. And he says, you want to do it? And I'm like, sure. And I didn't have to play. I got the gig without playing, but it was based on it was based on Frankie's recommendation. And it was based on that those cats knew me too. And I have to thank Frankie for giving me that, and the cats that just welcomed me in there. So I did. But I think during the season, there was things Frankie was involved in, but he still had the other things that he needed to do too. But at that time, I was only there for a year and a half. So that really getting me getting the Idol gig kind of cemented me as a person in the presence of LA, because sometimes you get into a point, it's like, man, this place is expensive. I don't know if you can stay here, So it's like, it enabled me to stay there, and it gave me a good footing for the things that I'm doing now.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen to a tune called Side by Side. And I'm not going to remember who it's with. Is it Rick Braun that you're playing with on this?
This is a track with Dave Koz, and David Sanborn, and Rick produced it. Rick is on it too. You can hear the horns things. And this is the only studio recording that, to my belief, that Dave recorded with David Sanborn. This was a big deal. This is a big deal.
I just want to be a fly on your shoulder when you meet all these people. All right. Let's take a listen to Side by Side on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Welcome back to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I am Daryl Scott. Guest today is Tony Pulizzi. Tony, I don't know where exactly to go. How many projects can you work on in a 6-month period and still be organized, I guess, is the main thing.
Well, first of all, I have to thank my wife for keeping me sane throughout it, and as the calls come in and being disciplined and doing that. Okay. I guess we can talk about, TV is one thing, but when you're doing TV, that is a commitment throughout the situation. After I did the Idol show, I was the guitar player for Natalie Cole for 4 years. And during that time, I was still able to do other things, but if the artists have, you're just doing weekends or things like that, you can keep other things going. But what I have done right now, I'm working with many, many, many people in this genre that we call jazz, and they all know each other. We all support each other. I don't see a lot of these people are good people, man. Mm-hmm. They are. I am fortunate, and I'm able to keep up. If this person is not playing here and then this other person has another gig, I've been able to keep it going. As saying, it's like after the death of Natalie, which rattled us, I was with her and that was it. I really didn't play with a lot of people on a regular level. And I kind of like it that I'm doing a lot of different things all the time. That keeps me fresh. I can keep recording my stuff. Even when Dave Koz does the Dave Koz cruise, I'm playing with many of the artists, and it keeps things fresh. And it's just all that. But yeah, delegating the time is difficult at sometimes. Yeah, it's if you see it like they're, I mean, right now I'm talking to you. I'm getting psyched about I have to delegate my time more. I got to get up in the morning. Even if I have to write a piece of music, maybe it's like 2 bars long, at least I got that done. You know, it's just like practicing, and I have to practice something. I have to isolate something. I have to do that. Now, at the same time, it's like I know many of these artists shows now, so I kind of just have to review a little bit. Or if it's my own show, you know, I have to practice. I have to put a delegation of practice on. So, but it's for the most part, it's been good. It's been good. I have to keep that balance.
I, you mentioned you played for Natalie Cole for what, 4 years? Were you on the tour when Natalie came to Cleveland and she played the MGM Ballroom in Northfield, Ohio?
Yes, I was there. That was me.
I've seen you.
Yeah, that was her final show in Cleveland. And then before that, we played the Palace downtown Playhouse, and then we played a show at Severance Hall with with part of the Cleveland Orchestra. And that was during, like, man, we stayed that night because it was so icy and cold. We were trying to push the tour bus. It got caught in the back of Severance. We all had to get out. We had to push it. But at the end, we stayed another night, and then we took off the next day.
So that's funny. I think back of all the shows that I've been to, and then you begin to ask people like yourself, I saw you. I was there. We didn't talk or anything, but it's like, if I'd have known I would have done something like this, we'd have sat and talked and everything. So the next time you're in Cleveland, you have to let me know so we can talk about some of those other things that we talked about before.
Oh yeah, man. Me, you, and Herb, we're gonna go out. We're gonna have a good talk, man.
He wanted to let me. He let me know that whenever I talk to you, I should let him know, because I'm sure he will reach out to you. Let's talk about future plans, dude. What can we look forward to hearing from you in the future?
Well, I do want to say a couple years ago, I've sent you an overview of a lot of things that I have done in many styles and things. I am a singer as well, and the song that we played, that's acoustic vocal thing that I have done, and I'm going to expand more on that. I also have a rock side of me too that I released an EP in 2022. Even after the death of Natalie, I just went right back into the studio because before that I wasn't recording a lot of stuff. I was just trying to get acclimated within the LA thing, and I still have stuff from Cleveland that I haven't released. And I know some people are upset about that, but like I say, there's a time for everything.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, there's a time for everything. There's things that I have planned that I want to release that I still had in Cleveland. And I'm going to do some more acoustic things, some more vocal stuff. I was going to say, we have a single that I'm working on that should be released this year. And then I have another album that I recorded right before the pandemic that it should be all done by the year's end. And that features the first group that I played with majorly in LA. Actually, it started in Cleveland. I had a tip off from the progressive rock station, and you probably know him. His name is Randy Allar. He's not with us anymore. He used to be the radio guy at WCSB in Cleveland State.
Yes.
But a guy named David Garfield from LA came in. He was doing gigs at nighttime, and he was looking for people to play with. So Randy said, hey, call this guy. And then I get this guy, Dave. I'm like, what are you calling me for? You're on all these projects. It's like, So he needed someone to play. So we ended up getting a relationship going. And there was one time at Nightown that he had 2 nights that he was going to play. And one night got canceled. So he hit me up. He's like, hey, man, I have Steve Ferroni coming in, average white band drummer.
Right.
Tom Petty, Alex Lidgertwood from Santana. So I'm like, man, what can I do? I'm like, well, I'm looking, man, I have a studio in my house. I have a drum set, right? It's like, and I asked David, he's David, would you play on some of my stuff? He's like, sure. So like the day that they were playing, they rolled on him and Steve. So we started recording then. And then and one more time they came in through Cleveland, they recorded again. And this was before I moved to LA. This was before I moved to LA. So fast forward to 2020, right before the pandemic, I recorded another slew of songs, and I had Alex sing on it too. And this album features David on keys, Steve Ferroni on drums, John Pena on bass, big player from Aaliyah Adams and Larry Carlton, and also Alex plays on it too, sings on it too. We do a duet, and Lenny Castro on percussion.
Yes.
So that will be the project that I'm releasing.
Okay. Be sure to let us know so we can get it out to all of our fans who are listening. How can they follow you? Do you have a social media presence?
Yes, this is TonyPGuitar.com. Easy. TonyPGuitar.com.
Okay.
You get everything there. You can find out all kinds of stuff.
It is amazing. Your energy is just, like I said, infectious. You're a class guy. Can't wait to hear all of your work and get this stuff going. Can't wait to continue this relationship. I greatly appreciate this. This has been fun. If you ever come to Cleveland, I guess it can't be just me and you. We'd have to get Herb in there.
Herb is in there.
There'll be some.
Bring Gary and Lem too. Let's do it.
You can bring Gary and Lem. Yeah, Gary and Lem were on a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
So
I saw. Yeah, I watched it.
They've been together 40 years.
Yes. Yes.
Which is the other thing that is amazing to me about musicians is that, and I said this to them, you can tolerate each other for 40 years because it's creative differences, it's health issues, it's personal issues, but yet and still you keep coming out with great music. And I've known Gary and Lem the entire 40 years. That's how far back I go with them. All of a sudden,
I'm saying, man, I can't thank these cats enough for giving me the foundation to carry on. And I gotta say that. And I do want to say one more thing too. Two other cats that are not with us anymore. They gave me a big start in the Cleveland area. His name is John Morton. He's a singer. He's not with us anymore. And also Ike Wiley, the original drummer for the Dazz
band, right?
They played on my original stuff and helped me and just started getting me started. Rest in peace.
Yeah, like I've said it, it's as large as the world can be, it really becomes a small circle. It really does once you figure out who you know and once you have conversations with different people. This show is 17 months old. I go out and I look at my charts and everything, and somebody in Australia is listening. And it doesn't matter. I don't necessarily right now have 8 million subscribers and all this sort of stuff, but just to realize that somebody from Australia is clicking on the Jazz Flyte Podcast and giving it a listen. Tony, we're gonna do this again because we have so many other things to talk about. And you have so
I got a lot.
Yes,
we got so much, man. There's so much.
Not all of it is airworthy, but it won't matter. This has been a great deal of fun, Tony. I appreciate the time. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Our guest today was Tony Pulizzi. Just join us. This is the stuff that you won't get anyplace else. You get to learn about a guy. He gets his new music out there. So you're listening to new music, and we're just doing it. So subscribe, listen, like, do the whole 9 yards. Tony, what we'll do also is we're going to put together a little playlist of your music. And I put that on the website. So if people go to the website, they'll see your name and there'll be 5 or 6 songs just to,
you know what? And thank you. And, I want to give a shout out to Rob Hubbard Jr. and Walter Barnes. And I did a record in Cleveland called The Blue Wrinkle, and we're going to put stuff on there too in that playlist. So
cool.
Thank you, Hub and Walt.
All right, man.
Yes.
Good to talk to you. All right, folks, have a good week. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that grew through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Daryl Scott.